The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like dying insects. Felix Jameson pressed his palm harder against the gash in his side, crimson seeping through his fingers and staining the white gurney beneath him. The antiseptic smell made his stomach turn, or maybe that was the blood loss. He shouldn't have gotten involved. Should have let the drunk harass the waitress, should have minded his own business. But Felix never could walk away from a fight, even when the odds came with broken glass and consequences. The curtain ripped open. She stood there in a white coat that seemed too clean for this place, clipboard clutched in one hand, dark eyes scanning him with the precision of someone who had seen too much. Her chestnut hair was tied back, revealing a face that might have been soft once, before whatever had hardened it. Felix Jameson. Her voice was flat, clinical. Let me guess. Bar fight. Hero complex. Regret. He managed a smirk despite the pain. You're good, document. I'm Dr. Callie Westwood. And I'm tired. She moved closer, pulling on latex gloves with practiced efficiency. Shirt off. Felix unbuttoned his ruined shirt, watching her face for any reaction. Most women noticed. Most women cared. She didn't even blink. The wound isn't deep, but you'll need stitches. Her hands were steady as she cleaned the gash, the antiseptic burning like judgment. This was stupid. Probably. Definitely. She threaded the needle without looking up. Some waitress you'll never see again isn't worth bleeding out in my ER. Someone had to do something. Someone always does. There was something bitter in her voice, something that made Felix study her more carefully. And someone always ends up on my table because of it. The needle pierced his skin. He barely felt it. You sound like you speak from experience. Her hand paused for half a second. I speak from seeing too many people make the same mistakes. What mistakes? Thinking they can save people who don't want to be saved. She finished another stitch, her movements mechanical. Thinking heroism means anything when you're dead. Felix caught her wrist gently as she reached for the scissors. Who didn't you save, Doc? Her eyes met his then, and for one fractured moment, he saw something raw beneath the surface. Pain. Loss. Anger that had nowhere to go. She pulled away. That's none of your concern. She cut the thread, removed her gloves. No strenuous activity for 3 days. Follow up in a week. Don't make me see you again before that. What if I want to see you again? Callie's laugh was hollow. Men like you always want what they can't have. It's a pattern. You'll get bored. You don't know me. I know your type. She turned toward the disposal bin, her back rigid. Wealthy. Entitled. Used to winning. You think persistence equals affection. It doesn't. Then why are your hands shaking? She froze. They're not. They are. Felix sat up slowly, ignoring the pull of fresh stitches. You felt it too. When you looked at me. When I asked about who you lost. You need to leave. Her voice had gone cold, defensive. Now. Callie. Dr. Westwood. What are you so afraid of? She turned then, and the look in her eyes was devastating. Fury and fear and something else he couldn't name. I'm afraid, she said quietly, that you're exactly like him. Before Felix could ask who him was, she walked out, leaving him alone with questions that burned worse than any wound. He pressed his fingers against the fresh stitches and made a decision. He was going to find out what Dr. Callie Westwood was running from. Even if it destroyed them both. Felix found her 2 days later outside a cafe near the hospital, coffee in hand, phone pressed to her ear. She looked exhausted, shadows under her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and battles fought in operating rooms. When she saw him leaning against his car, her expression cycled through surprise, annoyance, and something dangerously close to relief before settling on exasperation. She ended her call. "Stalking is a crime in this state, Mr. Jameson. Good thing I'm just persistent." He pushed off the car. "Coffee?" "I have coffee." Conversation, then. Callie took a deliberate sip, studying him over the rim. "What do you want?" "To understand why you looked at me like I was a ghost." "You're imagining things." "I don't imagine things, document. I observe them. Calculate them." "And you?" "You're terrified of me, but not because of anything I've done." Her jaw tightened. "You don't know anything about me." "Then tell me." He took a step closer. "Tell me who he was." "The one I remind you of." For a moment, she looked like she might walk away. Then something in her posture shifted, softened, broke. "His name was Marcus." The words came out rough, scraped raw. "He was a patient. Gunshot wound. Came in bleeding, charming, convinced he was invincible." She laughed bitterly. "Just like you." Felix stayed silent, letting her continue. "I saved his life. And then I made the mistake of falling for him." Her eyes were distant now, lost in memory. "He said all the right things. Made all the right promises. I believed him because I wanted to. Because after years of watching people die, I needed to believe in something that lived." "What happened?" "He was married." The words were bullets. "Had a wife. 2 kids. He never mentioned them. Not once. And when she found out, when she came to the hospital screaming, calling me names I can't repeat, I realized I'd been nothing but a distraction. A game." Felix felt something cold settle in his chest. "I'm not married." "No." Callie met his eyes. "But you're the same. Rich. Powerful. Used to getting what you want. And right now, you want me because I said no. Because I'm the puzzle you can't solve. That's not true. Isn't it?" She stepped closer, anger giving her courage. "Tell me, Felix. What happens after you win? After I let you in, after I fall for whatever version of yourself you're selling? Do you get bored? Do you find someone easier, someone who doesn't come with trauma and trust issues and a job that demands everything?" "You're making assumptions." "I'm making observations." She threw his words back at him. "I observe. I calculate. And the math doesn't work in my favor." They stood in the morning light, tension crackling between them like a live wire. "One dinner," Felix said finally. "Let me prove you wrong. And if you don't? Then I'll leave you alone." Callie searched his face, looking for the lie, the angle, the inevitable betrayal. But whatever she saw must have surprised her because her expression softened just slightly. "One dinner. That's all you get. That's all I need." She shook her head, but there was almost a smile there. 7 o'clock. "And Felix? Don't make me regret this." As she walked away, Felix felt something unfamiliar twist in his gut. It wasn't triumph or satisfaction. It was guilt. Because Callie didn't know the real reason he'd been in that bar. Didn't know about the deals made in back rooms, the money that changed hands, the carefully orchestrated fight that had put him in her ER. She didn't know he'd been looking for her specifically. And if she ever found out why, it would destroy whatever fragile thing was building between them. His phone buzzed. A message from his business partner, David. "Did you make contact? Does she suspect anything?" Felix stared at the text, then at Callie's retreating figure. He typed back, "It's handled." But as he slid into his car, he wondered who he was really lying to. Them or himself. The rooftop restaurant glittered like a constellation against the night sky. String lights cast golden shadows across white tablecloths, and through floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sprawled below them, vast and indifferent. Callie looked stunning in navy blue, her hair down for the first time since he'd met her, and Felix felt that unfamiliar guilt twist deeper. "You don't do simple, do you?" She scanned the space, taking in the exclusivity, the quiet wealth. "I do what works." He pulled out her chair, and she hesitated before sitting, as if proximity was dangerous. They ordered. Made small talk. Danced around the truth the way people do when they're afraid of what honesty might reveal. "Tell me something I don't know about you," Callie said finally, her wine glass catching the light. "Something real." Felix considered lying. Considered the mission, the money, the reason he was sitting across from her in the first place. Instead, he said, "I almost didn't go into business. My father wanted me to be a lawyer, follow his footsteps. But I couldn't stomach the politics, the performance of it all. So you became a businessman instead." There was gentle mockery in her tone. "No politics there. Different kind." He leaned back. "At least in business, people are honest about wanting your money." "And what do you want, Felix?" "Really?" The question hung between them, loaded and dangerous. "I want," he started, then stopped. Tried again. "I want to be someone who deserves things. Instead of someone who just takes them." Something flickered in her expression. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition. That's surprisingly honest. "You asked for real." "I did." She set down her glass. "My turn. I don't just have trust issues because of Marcus. I have them because my father was a surgeon too. Brilliant. Respected. And behind closed doors, he was a monster who made my mother's life a living hell." Felix's chest tightened. "Callie. I became a doctor because I wanted to fix people the way no one fixed him. But you can't fix someone who doesn't think they're broken." Her smile was sad, distant. "Marcus taught me that lesson again, just in case I'd forgotten. I'm not them. Everyone says that." She met his eyes. "How do I know you mean it?" Before Felix could answer, his phone buzzed. Once. Twice. Insistent. He ignored it. It buzzed again. "You should get that," Callie said, her walls going back up. "Might be important." "You're important." The words came out rawer than he intended, and he saw her breath catch. His phone rang. "Felix." Her voice was gentle now. "Answer it." He did, because ignoring David would only make things worse. "We need to talk." David's voice was clipped, urgent. "Now. I'm in the middle of something. I don't care. The board is getting nervous. They want results. They want her father's research, Felix. And if you can't deliver it through her, they'll find another way." Felix's blood went cold. He glanced at Callie, who was watching him with growing suspicion. "I'll call you back." He hung up before David could protest. "Who was that?" Callie asked quietly. "No one. Business." "You're lying." She stood, and the movement was so sudden it knocked her napkin to the floor. "I can see it in your face. You're lying to me." "Callie, wait. What do you want from me?" Her voice was rising, drawing attention from nearby tables. "What is this really about?" Felix stood too, panic clawing at his throat. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. He was supposed to have more time, supposed to figure out how to tell her without losing her. "Your father's research," he said, the words tumbling out. "The cardiac regeneration trials. My company needs access to his files." She went pale. "That research was sealed. It's proprietary, locked in legal disputes with the hospital for 3 years." Her eyes widened with horrified understanding. You came to that bar on purpose. The fight. The stitches. All of it was to get close to me. At first, yes. He reached for her, but she jerked back. But that changed, Callie. You changed it. How much? Her voice was shaking. How much is my father's life's work worth to you? 800 million. The number felt obscene now, monstrous. The patents could revolutionize cardiac medicine. Save millions of lives. And make you billions. She grabbed her purse, and there were tears in her eyes now, fury and betrayal mixing into something devastating. You're exactly like them. Exactly like Marcus, like my father. You saw something you wanted and you took it, no matter who you hurt. That's not fair. Fair? She laughed, and it sounded broken. You used me. You made me believe that maybe, just maybe, someone could want me for me. Not for what I could give them. Not for access or information or anything except just me. I do want you. You want what I can give you. She turned toward the exit, and Felix felt something inside him fracture. Don't follow me. Don't call me. Don't ever come near me again. Callie, please. She stopped at the doorway, her back to him. The worst part? Her voice was barely a whisper. I was starting to fall for you. Despite everything I knew, every warning, every instinct. I was falling. Then she was gone, and Felix stood alone in a restaurant full of strangers, the taste of ashes in his mouth. His phone buzzed again. Did you get the access codes? He looked at the message, then at the empty space where Callie had been. And for the first time in his life, Felix Jameson realized that some things were more valuable than money. He just wished he'd realized it before he'd destroyed the only thing that mattered. 3 weeks passed like open wounds. Felix tried calling. Texting. Showing up at the hospital until security escorted him out. Callie had vanished behind walls he'd helped build, and every day the silence carved deeper. His company board was furious. David was relentless, pushing alternative strategies, suggesting they hire investigators, lawyers, anyone who could force access to the research. Felix refused. You're throwing away everything we've worked for, David said during their emergency board meeting. $800 million. 5 years of planning. For what? A woman who won't even speak to you? For doing the right thing. Felix's voice was steel. We're done pursuing this. The board will vote you out. Let them. That night, Felix sat in his penthouse overlooking the city, a glass of whiskey untouched in his hand. He'd built an empire on calculated risks and ruthless decisions, and now he was dismantling it for a woman who hated him. His phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Felix. Callie's voice, and his heart stopped. We need to talk. 20 minutes later, she was standing in his living room, still in scrubs, exhaustion written in every line of her body. Why did you pull out? She demanded. I heard through hospital administration. Your company dropped the legal pursuit of my father's research. Why? Because you were right. He set down his glass. I used you. I hurt you. And no amount of money is worth that. You're giving up $800 million because of guilt? I'm giving it up because I love you. The words hung in the air between them, stark and terrifying. Callie's expression cracked. You don't love me. You love the idea of redemption. Of being the hero for once. Maybe that's how it started. He moved closer, and she didn't pull away. But it's not why I'm ending this. I ended it because the thought of causing you more pain makes me sick. Because you deserve someone who chooses you first, not as an afterthought to profit margins. That doesn't change what you did. No. It doesn't. He reached out slowly, giving her time to reject him, and when she didn't, he touched her cheek gently. But I'm trying to be better. Trying to be someone you could maybe, eventually, forgive. Tears slid down her face. I want to hate you. You should. But I can't. Her voice broke. I've tried. For 3 weeks, I've tried, and I can't. Callie. She kissed him then, desperate and angry and full of everything they'd destroyed. His hands found her waist, pulling her closer, and for a moment the world narrowed to just this, just them, just the possibility of repair. The kiss broke, and they stood forehead to forehead, breathing hard. This doesn't fix things, she whispered. I know. I still don't trust you. I'll earn it back. He pressed another kiss to her temple. However long it takes. She pulled back, studying his face as if memorizing it. The research. It's not what you think it is. Felix went still. What do you mean? My father's cardiac regeneration trials. They worked. But they had a fatal flaw. Her voice was hollow. The treatment caused aggressive cellular mutation in 15% of patients. Cardiac cancer within 6 months. Jesus. He knew. Before he died, he knew, and he buried the data. Callie's hands were shaking. That's why the research was sealed. Why the hospital has been fighting to keep it locked away. Because if it gets out, if anyone tries to replicate it without knowing about the mutation rate, people will die. Felix felt his entire world tilt. Your company would have killed people. Eventually, yes. She laughed bitterly. Ironic, isn't it? You wanted to save millions. Instead, you would have murdered thousands before anyone realized the treatment was poison. Why are you telling me this? Because you pulled out. Because you chose me over the money. She wiped her eyes. And because I need you to understand what that choice actually meant. You didn't just save us, Felix. You saved lives you'll never meet, never know about. He sank onto the couch, the weight of it crushing. If I'd succeeded. If I'd gotten the research. You would have spent the rest of your life knowing you'd killed people. She sat beside him. Now you get to live knowing you didn't. They sat in silence, the city lights flickering below. I'm sorry, Felix said finally. For all of it. I know. Callie took his hand, and the gesture felt like forgiveness, or the beginning of it. But sorry doesn't erase what happened. We can't go back to the beginning, to that night in the ER when things were simple. So what do we do? She looked at him, and there was something fierce in her eyes now. We start from here. From the truth. From knowing the worst about each other and choosing to try anyway. That's terrifying. It is. She smiled, small and fragile. But maybe that's what love actually is. Not the fairy tale. The choice to stay even when staying is hard. Felix pulled her close, and she let him, curling into his side like she belonged there. Outside, the city hummed with life, indifferent to their small tragedy, their smaller hope. Inside, two broken people tried to figure out how to build something real from the wreckage of lies. Felix's phone buzzed one more time. The board voted. You're out. Hope she was worth it. He looked at Callie, asleep now against his shoulder, peaceful for the first time since he'd known her. He deleted the message. She was worth everything. But neither of them knew that in 2 days, someone else would come for the research. Someone who wouldn't take no for an answer. And this time, the stakes would be life and death. The break-in happened at 2 a.m. Callie's apartment building, 4th floor, bedroom window. She woke to the sound of glass shattering and a gloved hand covering her mouth before she could scream. Where are the files? The voice was cold, professional. Your father's research. Where is it? She couldn't see his face in the darkness, but she could feel the gun pressed against her ribs. I don't have it, she gasped against his palm. It's sealed at the hospital. Liar. He dragged her out of bed, and she realized there were two of them, both in black, both armed. We know you accessed the archives 3 weeks ago. Digital footprint doesn't lie. Her blood went cold. She had accessed them, right after Felix had told her about his company's interest. Had wanted to see for herself what her father had buried. The files aren't here. Then you're going to get them. The first man shoved her toward her laptop. Hospital access codes. Now. Her hands shook as she typed, trying to think, trying to find an escape. She entered her credentials, and the hospital system loaded. Behind her, she heard the second man on his phone. We have her. She's cooperating. 20 minutes and we'll have everything. That's when the apartment door exploded inward. Felix came through like a storm, something metallic flashing in his hand. Not a gun. A tire iron from his car. The first man turned, raising his weapon, but Felix was faster. The tire iron connected with his wrist, and the gun clattered away. They went down hard, fists and fury and the sound of bone on bone. The second man grabbed Callie, using her as a shield. Back off or she dies. Felix froze, blood streaming from his nose, eyes wild. Let her go. The research or she dies. Choose. Callie felt the gun barrel press harder against her temple, and in that moment, everything crystallized. The research that had killed her father with guilt. The treatment that would kill thousands more if it got out. The choice that would define who they really were. Felix, she said calmly. Remember what I told you. About the mutation rate. His eyes widened with understanding. The man behind her tensed. What mutation rate? The treatment causes cardiac cancer, Callie continued, her voice steady despite the terror screaming through her veins. 15% of patients. 6 months to death. My father buried that data. If you release this research, you'll kill everyone you give it to. You're lying. Check the files yourself. She nodded toward the laptop. It's all there. Buried in the trial results. My father was a monster, but he wasn't stupid. He documented everything. The man's grip loosened slightly, doubt creeping in. Felix moved. He lunged forward, grabbing the gun hand, twisting it up and away. The weapon discharged, deafening in the small space, the bullet punching through the ceiling. They struggled, and Callie scrambled away, grabbing her phone, dialing 911 with shaking fingers. Don't move, Felix growled, now holding the gun, aimed at both intruders. The first man was unconscious on the floor. The second had his hands up, calculating odds. You don't want to shoot me, the man said. You're not a killer. Maybe not. Felix's voice was ice. But I'm willing to become one for her. The sound of sirens cut through the night. Close. Getting closer. The man cursed and ran, diving through the broken window onto the fire escape. Felix didn't follow, just kept the gun trained on the unconscious intruder until police flooded the apartment. Then he dropped the weapon and pulled Callie into his arms. She was shaking, full-body tremors she couldn't control, and he held her through it, whispering things she couldn't hear over the ringing in her ears. Later, at the police station, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like old coffee and despair, Callie told the detective everything. About her father's research. About Felix's company. About the break-in and the men who wanted to weaponize a cure that was really a poison. We'll need to seal that research permanently, the detective said. If organized crime thinks it's valuable, they'll keep coming. Do it, Callie said without hesitation. Burn it if you have to. No one should have access to that kind of destruction. Felix sat beside her, his hand in hers, and she realized something profound. They'd both been trying to save people. He threw business. She threw medicine. both believing they could fix the world through sheer force of will. But some things couldn't be fixed. Some damage was permanent. Some scars never faded. And that was okay. A week later, they stood on Felix's rooftop, watching the sun rise over a city that didn't care about their small tragedy, their smaller triumph. "I sold the company," Felix said quietly. "Everything. Dissolved the board, paid out the shareholders." Callie looked at him, surprised. "Why?" "Because I don't want to be that person anymore. The one who measures worth in profit margins." He turned to face her. "I want to build something real. Something that actually helps people without destroying them in the process. That's a beautiful dream. It's terrifying." He smiled, and it was genuine, no calculation behind it. "I have no idea what I'm doing. Welcome to being human." She leaned into him, and he wrapped his arms around her, solid and warm. "It's uncomfortable and uncertain and absolutely worth it." They stood there as the sun climbed higher, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. "I love you," Felix said. "I don't know if I've earned the right to say that yet, but it's true." "I love you too." Callie tilted her face up to his. "Even though you're infuriating and reckless and you almost got me killed. I saved you. After putting me in danger in the first place." But she was smiling. "We're going to be a disaster, you know that? The best kind." He kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. "The kind that learns from their mistakes. Or makes bigger ones. Probably both." Below them, the city woke up. People started their days, chased their dreams, made their choices. Some good. Some terrible. All human. And on that rooftop, two people who had been broken by betrayal and loss and their own worst instincts chose to try again. Chose each other. Chose the messy, complicated truth over the pretty lie. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was better. It was real. 3 months later, Felix opened a nonprofit medical clinic in Callie's name. She worked there 3 days a week, treating patients who couldn't afford traditional care. They fought sometimes, disagreed often, struggled with trust and trauma and the ghosts of their past. But they stayed. Through the hard conversations and harder revelations. Through the nights when Callie still had nightmares about guns and broken glass. Through the days when Felix questioned every decision, terrified of becoming his father. They stayed. Because love wasn't about perfection. It was about choice. The choice to see someone at their worst and love them anyway. The choice to be seen at your worst and let them love you. The choice to build something beautiful from the wreckage of your mistakes. And in the end, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. The end.